Thank you for those kind words. Respected Professor Chandrasekhar, Professor Srijay Ers, Professor Shalini Ers, Professor Panini, Professor Sheshadri, Professor P.K. Mishra, and all these great people here, students and faculty. It's a great privilege to be here, and I'll be speaking about the Toda people who have been living in the Nilgiris for thousands of years. Some of you may not be aware of because my topic is on development and what it means to the Toda people. It's a bit dry, so when I finish my address, I'll be showing you a few clips on the Todas, just to show you about their life and the pictures I've taken in the last 20 years, and they're all described in my book, which is there. So I come about the Todas. The Todas are likely the oldest still existing inhabitants of the Upper Nilgiris Plateau in South India, having lived here since ancient times. With their quaint barrel-vaulted temples and houses, their embroidered Poothkuli cloaks, and their magnificent long-horned buffaloes, the Todas have fascinated the world ever since civilization stepped into the Nilgiris almost 2 centuries ago. Both the Todas and the beloved breed of buffaloes are restricted to the Nilgiris. Their culture revolves around these herds, with each of the 6 grades of Dairy Temple having its corresponding herd of sacred buffaloes. Only a man who has become a priest, following the elaborate ordination ceremonies specific to each grade, may milk the corresponding grade of sacred buffaloes and ritually process it into butter, buttermilk, curd, and ghee. An altered landscape. When the British and their entourage arrived in the Upper Nilgiris in the early 19th century, the area was a panorama of indigenous landscapes. Today, by contrast, vast areas of the Toda homeland have been overrun by tea gardens, townships, exotic tree plantations, and hydroelectric reservoirs. Sadly, nowadays, nobody seems to care when Toda temple sites are planted with pine trees, the hill of the creator goddess Tekiji is quarried for stone, and sacred migratory routes are blocked by reservoirs and by tree or tea plantations. As if all this were not enough, even sacred bells and other holy objects that the Todas have safeguarded for centuries inside their temples have mysteriously disappeared. The traditionally pastoral Todas have themselves been coerced into becoming unwilling agriculturists. The indigenous groups, the Todas and the Kotas on the higher reaches, along with the Kurumbas on the slopes and the Irulas on the foothills, have ancient times. For what remains of the traditional Toda landscape and lifeways, we should be grateful to the British that they avoided resettling Todas into new areas. Perhaps they realized that because the Toda way of life was so closely linked with the rhythms of nature, it was best to leave major hamlets and sacred areas intact. Inkiti is the only Toda Patri clan that had to vacate all its principal hamlets due to the establishment of the military township of Wellington and the nearby town of Kunur. The clan's chief hamlet, Inkiti, had to be relocated a couple of times and is now situated above Wellington. Kaj Patri clan, along with Melgaj, was particularly affected by the establishment of Ooty. Both clans lost a large portion of their land. The government finally compensated the Todas for the loss of lands associated with 10 hamlets situated in the vicinity of Ooty, and in return for the agreement to accept a sum of 150 rupees per annum in perpetuity. The Todas have long stopped going to receive this paltry sum from the government. Colonial influences. The traditional society and landscape of the Nilgiri Hills was irrevocably changed with the coming of the British in the early years of the 19th century. In 1819, the founder of Morton Ooty or Ootacamund, John Sullivan, then the collector of neighboring Coimbatore district, reached the Toda homeland and became captivated by its inhabitants. Within the next few decades, other British settlements came up on the Nilgiri uplands and the military cantonment known as Wellington. Sullivan quickly ordered a number of bridle paths to be built all over the plateau, and soon his successors continued his initiative to ensure that an elaborate network of roads connected the new settlements with one another and in the plains below. It is remarkable that these roads are still in use today. Another marvelous narrow-gauge mountain railway system, a stupendous engineering feat, and now a UNESCO-designated heritage system, which was mentioned by Professor Mishra, was in place by 1908. For the Todas, the building of the railway was not without consequences. This is because just before the train reaches its final destination of Ooty, it passes along a hillside located directly above the Toda temple at Kiju hamlet. Since Toda females are not permitted to enter the hallowed area above this temple, the location of the tracks presented the Todas with a predicament, which they resolved by declaring that henceforth no Toda females were to ride this train over this stretch of track. Therefore, Toda women traveling to the plains by train must embark at Lovedale and not Ooty. And those coming from the plains must disembark at Lovedale and travel to Ooty by other means. So this is how they got around, development. This is the first impact of the Nilgiri Mountain Railway. After the British had discovered the temperate climate of the Nilgiris, the townships flourished, and numerous colonial-style bungalows and other buildings, still largely in place today, were constructed. The British also established the fabled Ooty hunt for jackals, because there were no foxes here, over the Wenlock Downs, which is the heartland of the Todas. The Todas were often engaged to assist the British gentry when they were out hunting game, and quite a few apparently suffered serious consequences. For example, one Toda boy was mistakenly shot dead, while another fell over a precipitous cliff in the dense mist while trying to retrieve a wounded Nilgiri Tar. When all hope had been given up of finding the boy alive, somebody noticed that, after a free fall over escarpment for a few hundred meters, the boy had got himself hooked onto the branches of a tree that were projecting from the hillside. The British owner of the nearby tea estate was informed of this fortuitous turn of events. The Toda boy, being subsequently pulled to safety with some strong rope. An actual cliffhanger in every sense of the word. On one of my first visits to Pashka hamlet, I was shown this rock face with that same tree still jutting out. It was scary to just look down at that place. Both these stories have been preserved in Toda songs that were composed at the time. So they were composing about development in a sense. From the early days after the arrival of the British, an enduring romantic fascination for the Todas with their quaint culture, striking continents, and magically beautiful landscapes began to unfold for the newfound colonial masters. Moreover, they had met their match in an aboriginal group that showed absolutely no sense of servitude. Indeed, the Todas appear to look upon Western culture with distinct condescension. John Sullivan himself notes, "It was only for the second time that they had seen white men, but I was perplexed by their majestically calm attitude. It resembled so little the slavish matters of the natives in India that we were accustomed to see. They seemed to await our arrival." Unquote. The Toda elders then explained that the oracles had prophesied that a race of men would one day come from beyond the seas and settle near them. When Sullivan conversed with the Todas over the ensuing years, he was astonished to note that they understood the British well and were not afraid to state this to the collector. He writes, "Spontaneously and very justly, they understood our national character and our faults." Sullivan found himself quickly conquered by the Toda people, and he remained their friend and protector for the next 30 years. The Oxford Dictionary defines development as a stage of growth or advancement. Although at the onset of the opening up the Nilgiri Hills, the Toda world was pretty much restricted to their homeland and its vicinity, they were certainly not living in a savage state, and indeed displayed some worldly values that were rare even among many civilized societies. For example, they had perfected the concept of nature sanctification and were thus in total harmony with the elements. They knew the natural way of keeping their population low. Despite having no official headmen, their legal system worked well. There were no prisons. People adhered to the fines and compensations awarded by the clan council. There were elaborate rules around which they organized their society, and these worked well for a group that even today numbers just 1,400 Orthodox members. They seemed to be free from the genetic defects of inbreeding. They had already evolved into a state of vegetarianism, very rare indeed. Their traditional ecological knowledge was profound. For instance, they could accurately predict every season and its stage, along with the climatic state, by observing the flowering cycles of local plants. And they even looked to flowers to indicate their anxiety levels. Their conical and barrel-vaulted architecture was trailblazing among first societies. According to some specialists, the Toda conical temple represents a prototype of the South Indian temple's Vimana or the Gopuram. They had no concept of money and acquisition. All the indigenous Nilgiri people had a symbiotic system of economic interdependence. The Toda people appear to have no martial traditions, no weapons, no knowledge of hunting or warfare. People who reached middle age, by most accounts, lived to a ripe old age. They had no real concept of sin. Nobody was condemned to hell in the next world. There was no traditional intoxicant. They quite literally existed on milk and honey. The women folk performed an intricate form of nature-inspired embroidery. Their spontaneously composed songs were a unique form of oral poetry that has been described as a combination of Homeric, Hebrew, and a stereotype corpus from the Vedas. In short, the Toda people were experiencing the pure joys of nature-centric life when the British entered their homeland. They were in total tune with nature, whilst living in a seemingly endless and beautiful landscape that was sacred to them, without the hindrances and encumbrances of personal ownership. All families owned similar-looking dwellings that could be erected in a few days, without stirring any feelings of jealousy. Food and possessions were collected from the vicinity or exchanged with other indigenous groups. Every Toda had access to basic food, shelter, and clothing, besides being part of an extended family of his clan, division, and community. Thus, the concept of orphans and old age destitution did not exist. Toda society worked along prescribed societal rules and customs of mutuality. Besides Sullivan, the observations of some other British sojourners on the Nilgiris of those early times are also interesting. Harkness writes in his 1832 book, he mentioned that the Todas are of a peaceful character. They have no fastening to their dwellings other than a little door. And incidentally, until a few decades ago, the Todas have no concept of even locking their houses. They have no weapons for defense and no protection against the wild beasts, he mentions. That they pass their days in a manner quite peculiar to themselves and apparently in all the silent, quiet, and rural simplicity characteristic of a patriarchal government and a pastoral life. He adds, I never saw a people, civilized or uncivilized, who seem to have a more religious respect for the rights of mine and yours. He goes on to add that the British had not found a single thief among them and that deceit and lying appear to be alien concepts to the Todas. The fact that most ethnographic accounts of the Todas in the 19th century were unable to throw much light on either their culture or their language led to a heightened mysterious aura developing around them. Neither were the early missionaries successful in proselytizing them, but some aspects of their culture, for instance that idol worship was not practiced and their ritualized buffalo cult, along with the fact that gods from the Indic pantheon did not figure in the list of deities, came to fore. The missionary Metz, who worked with the traditional people during this period, is reported to have stated, it is easier to reach the North Pole than to penetrate the soul of a Toda. This is a missionary saying this. Madame Blavatsky also mentions in a book that the Todas never eat meat, they do not sow, nor do they reap. They have no regard for money or material matters. It is impossible to bribe them, as they have no need of anything. And the healers never treat a person who has consumed alcohol. She also mentions in a book that before our arrival on the mountains of the Nilgiris, there was no smell of liquor. It is a gift of grace bestowed by our civilization, meaning the Western civilization. If development is used as a guide to the assumption that the human condition keeps improving, a glance at some of the above-mentioned qualities exhibited by the Todas of the early 19th century tells us that they had already reached a state of evolution, both moral and spiritual, although perhaps not material, but remember that they were contented, where they experienced a basic fullness of life that often surpassed mundane material existence. And then the transition towards material development begins. The transition towards modernity began many decades ago amongst the first converts to Christianity. The important difference between then and now was that those people still valued the salient features of Toda culture and spoke their parent language. They don't do that anymore. Thus, they followed an integrated form of the newfound religion. For example, they chanted the gospel that was adapted from traditional Toda songs and prayers. This was an early example of Todas adapting to change and development. As a result, there was already a nurse among the Christian Todas in the 1950s. In the 1990s, when I began my fieldwork, a young Toda Christian woman was starring in a Tamil movie. Other females were working in banks and other offices and spoke fluent English. Contrast this with the Orthodox community that had just 2 graduates in the early 1990s. They have been so rooted in their cultural heritage that the Orthodox members have kept economic development at bay until recently. Even today, of the 7 grades of Tehri temple, 6 are extant and vibrant. Their temple architecture remains unchanged. Some, like the extremely sacred conical temple at Connaught, that the great WHR Rivers had predicted over a century ago would face imminent demise, are still vibrant today. Many long-abandoned settlements have been reoccupied in recent years. And even in 2016, the Dairy temple at the seasonal hamlet Kijaj was rebuilt and reoccupied after a hiatus of over 50 years. The Toda rites of passage, although sometimes truncated, are still followed, and all Orthodox Todas still speak their unique and phonetically highly aberrant language. This despite the fact that even outsiders who have been raised around Toda hamlets express their impossibility at ever speaking this language. Todas have also brilliantly Todaized Tamil, English, and even Sanskrit words, wherever they did not exist in their own vocabulary. For example, a collector is known as Talkod, a doctor known as Thokod, both Toda words directly adapted from the English versions. There are also commonly used words like alag, which means separate, Kams shirt, and Gubar manure that are derived from Sanskrit words. There are numerous such examples and demonstrate a method of adapting to the changing times. This is not to say that the Toda shun material development. In fact, if it does not clash with their cultural values, it is welcomed. In the 1950s, when Prince Peter was studying polyandry among the Todas, he rushed a pregnant lady in an advanced stage of labor to the Ooty hospital in his car in the 1950s. In gratitude, the male child which was born was named Petrosen after Prince Peter. When the Purgod area in Kodinad got its first bus service many years ago, a pregnant lady was rushed to the hospital in that mode of transport. The female neonate was named as Posmali. Pos means bus. At the start of the 21st century, I was overwhelmed by a number of requests from residents of remote hamlets to get their settlements electrified. On asking one young Toda man why he wanted electricity as a hamlet, he replied quite honestly that he wanted to view the ongoing cricket match that the national team was playing, the Indian team was playing. A district collector whom I contacted to facilitate this was Supriya Sahu. After she inaugurated the electrification at Kerir hamlet, the next female child born there was named as Supriya Sin. Sin means gold in Toda. At the same time, these people lauded our efforts at preserving Toda cultural heritage when a Toda lady composed a song about it. At present, the Toda Nalvalva Sangam, or TNS, we have obtained admission for several young Todas to study on full scholarship in prestigious boarding schools in the Nilgiris. It is an experiment that is unfolding, but at present, these students appear happy to be back home during vacations, frolicking in the sylvan settings of their own hamlets. As Professor Chandrasekhar was saying, our NGO has been pursuing all these great public schools in the Nilgiri and saying, under the RTE, please give these Toda children admission. So we're getting, every year we get many children admitted into public schools in the Nilgiris, in the boarding. They're studying alongside the elite, and every year we're getting half a dozen of these children admitted. So it's a fantastic experiment that is unfolding, and it's very interesting to see what happens. We are also supporting partly the first Orthodox Toda graduates in nursing, engineering, law, and teachers training at present, with the hope that some may come back to provide service to their community. Through various governmental schemes, we have been able to introduce paved footpaths, traditional and modern housing, check dams along brooks to harness and supply water, etc. The effects of development can be a happy blend of old and new, like the electrification of newly revived traditional barrel-vaulted houses. I have also learned many things from trial and error. For example, during the early days of my interaction with the Todas, I once insisted that my Toda friend Kotar Kuttan wear outdoor boots during our trips into the field. On the very first trip, I was aghast to see Kotar slip while crossing a stream, thus realizing that he was nimble-footed, only without shoes. In the mid-1990s, the TNS received financial support from the government to establish 5 Toda women's embroidery units and allocated land within the government botanical gardens to put up a barrel-vaulted structure from where the Toda women could market their embroidery products. Perhaps for the very first time, Toda women were fully in charge. All their earnings went to the group, and they were responsible for purchasing raw materials, maintaining accounts, tailoring, and sales. This embroidery center still functions, and in 2013, our application to the Government of India was accepted, and Toda embroidery was given a geographical indication or GI registration patent, indeed a unique honor and recognition. Even in the field of embroidery, Toda women are innovating by adding modern motifs to the repertoire of traditional ones. For example, they have a design known as a wristwatch pattern that welcomes this technological innovation, despite the fact that a dairyman priest may still have to use traditional methods to judge the time of the day. It was some years ago that I realized that the indigenous botanical knowledge of the Todas was far more exhaustive than had been hitherto been assumed. However, in part due to the establishment of a special tribal ward at the Ooty Government Hospital, these people have gradually become accustomed to seeking modern medical assistance. For example, for some decades, most Toda neonates have been delivered at hospitals. Not surprisingly then, over time, the link with the traditional herbal system has become disconnected. Today, only a very few elders retain some of this knowledge. Often it is only when modern allopathic medicine fails to offer any relief that they fall back on the traditional herbal system. Nevertheless, the inventory of plants used and related to by the Todas remains very impressive. Most of these are used culturally, as well as in the construction of traditional structures, and many also figure in their myths. Every week, there is some Toda who drops by with a request for medical assistance for an ill relative. Over the years, we have assisted in raising funds for specialized treatment at Coimbatore hospitals, including some major cardiovascular surgeries. In the past, before setting out with their buffalo herds for the dry season pastures and temporary settlements, the migrating clansmen would selectively burn the grassland surrounding their permanent homes. The event was ritualized, with the dairymen priests using fire sticks of Lycia Whitiana to light a sacred fire at the foot of a deity mountain, an event that heralded the onset of the winter season. This ancient custom of pasture burning has now been disallowed and proscribed by the modern-day Forest Department. The Forest Department is yet to understand that the ritual of setting fire to selected areas of grassland and wetland was actually a direct form of ecosystem management. Now that modern science is beginning to understand that some ecosystems require natural or induced firing to rejuvenate, it is hoped that the traditional ecological knowledge of the Todas will be recognized. The Convention on Biological Diversity, CBD, to which India is a signatory, specifically declares in Article 8, respect, preserve, and maintain the knowledge, innovations, and practices of indigenous communities. Now, in Yellowstone National Park in America, they have found that in some ecosystems, in some savannas, firing is essential. But this is what people like the Todas have been saying for thousands of years. In and around the Toda homeland Majord, there are around 10 hydroelectric reservoirs. A minuscule area has 10 hydroelectric reservoirs. That you can imagine the amount of water there. Along with the mass planting of virgin grasslands with exotic tree species, these artificial lakes have blocked the sacred migratory pathways to many of the most sacred Tea Dairy temple sites and other seasonal hamlets. Toda elders react with great anguish when they recall the old days before alteration of the sacred landscape. There are many stories that relate how the power of Toda deities, true stories, fought off such developmental activities. One recent story, known to many outsiders as well as Todas, relates to the construction a few decades ago of the hydroelectric dam at Upper Bhavani. During the building process, workers started digging earth to be used for the construction work from the nearby deity hills of Eze and Mose. This is a true story. Some Toda elders, committed to their sacred hills, protested at the sacrilege, but their words went unheeded. After a while came news that, during the digging work, the earth had caved in and killed some of the laborers. Subsequently, these deity hills were left untouched. The effect of tourism in the Nilgiris has also had the impact on the Toda ways of life. Until a decade or so ago, many movies are shot in the Wenlock Downs around Toda settlements. The disturbance, noise, and other form of pollution left behind by the filming activities and the thronging tourists were gifted to the Todas. Due to protests from environmental activists, the filming activity has declined, but the areas where the well-known films were shot have become known as shooting points, and they invariably locate around Toda areas, where tourists still flock to visit the shooting points. Mercifully, recently, the Forest Department has begun ecotourism initiatives where Todas from local areas are involved in regulating the activity of tourism. Unfortunately, the tourists still find ways of picnicking in secluded spots and leave behind tons of garbage in a fragile ecosystem. In the 1990s, the government decided to put up an alternate boathouse around Paikara Lake. The site selected was that of the most sacred Ordi, a former Tea Dairy complex. The Todas got wind of this and protested vehemently, following which the project was shelved. Unfortunately, after some years, the boathouse was quietly made operational, much to the dismay of the Toda community. Melgaj is located just above the government botanical gardens in Ooty. Its common Badaga name is Manjakal Mandh, but because of its location, is often referred to as Garden Mandh, or of late simply as Toda Mandh, especially in roadside signboards. Tourists thronging to the garden do not realize that this park has encroached upon sacred Toda land and think that the Todas are there only as showpieces for their benefit. This has tremendous nuisance value to the resident Todas. Until the arrival of the British, the farming communities of the Nilgiris only cultivated traditional crops like little millet, finger millet, wheat, and some vegetables. Nowadays, the economy of the district revolves entirely on cash crops like tea, potato, and carrot that are principally sent to distant areas. Thus, the Todas have to travel outside the district to procure little millet to cook some traditional festive fare after an important ceremony like the rethatching of a temple. It has now been established that the traditional Nilgiri foods were ideally suitable for people living in a cold environment. The modern day use of polished white rice and exotic vegetables loaded with pesticide is taking a steady toll, as the waterways are also becoming polluted. Even to collect honey from traditional tree cavity hives, the Todas are constantly harassed by the Forest Department personnel. Otherwise, workers from nearby tea estates just hack open an ancient tree hive, thus destroying it forever. Toda elders break down in tears when they see such things. What we now know as the Mukuti National Park has been a part of the Toda homeland and sacred landscape since countless centuries. Many Toda patriclans had seasonal settlements in this area that were born of ecological necessity. In ancient times, Toda gods lived alongside the people. When they went on, they took residence in some prominent hilltops. Not surprisingly then, of the 34 deity hills that the Toda people recognize as abodes of specific gods, over 1 dozen are located in and around the Mukurti National Park. It would not be an exaggeration to state that the Mukurti National Park and its environs has remained in a pristine state that houses unique biodiversity, leading to its inclusion as a core area of the Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve, is partly due to the management practices followed by the Todas since time immemorial. However, despite a government order issued over a century ago stating that the Todas are allowed to collect specific forest produce, these people are often disallowed to enter the Mukurti National Park, an area that they have managed since ancient times. The Toda buffalo represents one of the few breeds of the Asiatic water buffalo, Bobalis bobalis, and like their masters, the Todas, is restricted to the Nilgiris. The most visible characteristics of a purebred Toda buffalo are its semi-wild, ferocious demeanor, along with its sweeping crested-shaped horns. Over the past few decades, there have been numerous schemes by the government to try and breed this Toda breed of buffalo with Murrah bulls from North India. Only now is the government realizing the need to preserve the purebred Toda buffaloes. The depletion of the most precious Toda buffalo is another unfortunate effect of lopsided developmental effects. Traditionally, the only wealth that the Todas knew, they didn't know what is cash, the only wealth that they knew was a buffalo. There's an old story about when King George was to visit the South India, and the Todas were told to put up an extravaganza in his honor and compose a song in his honor, which is still remembered today. And when the day was drawing closer, the British officials came to the Toda elders and said, you know, King George is not only the emperor of the British Empire, but he also happens to be a very wealthy man. To which the Toda patriarchs are supposed to have queried, how many buffaloes does he own? And that was their understanding of wealth. The effects of development on the unique flora of the Nilgiris, especially those species that are of critical importance to the Todas, can be exemplified by just one grass. This grass is known as Aerochrysis rangacharai and is known as avul in Toda. And according to the Red Data Book of Plants, this is extinct. You know, if you read the Red Data Book of Plants, this plant is extinct. But every year, the Todas are harvesting truckloads of it to thatch their temples. So it's kind of strange, you know, the dichotomy between science. At one stage, science says it's extinct, but the Todas are harvesting this species to thatch their temples. But so that's a different thing. So they have been using it sustainably as an important thatch material for their dairy temples and houses. And until a few decades ago, this thatch grass was in all the wetlands of Nilgiris, in the western parts, you could find this thatch grass. But because the Todas are not allowed to manage their wetlands and this thing, now it is becoming more and more and more scarce. So that's a different thing. You know, the Todas are not being allowed to manage their ecosystem, something that they've done so proficiently. Now, balancing tradition and development, the Todas' pastoral way of life, combined with a non-martial, non-hunting, pacifist, and vegetarian lifestyle, has surely played a significant role in ensuring the survival and prospering of the flora and fauna that surround their settlements. Even today, Todas meet with introspection rather than anger and a desire for revenge, the loss of a buffalo to a predatory tiger residing in the vicinity of their hamlets. Extraordinarily, they are able to accept their loss as being a kind of benediction. Some years ago, a Toda council was held to discuss the issue of tigers straying into their hamlets. The consensus was that this was happening because the Todas were themselves moving away from their heritage. So there's introspection, there's no anger. When I first interacted with the Todas in the early 1990s, it appeared that their culture was at a crossroads. The government had succeeded in making this buffalo-oriented community into unwilling farmers. Although that changeover now appears irreversible, younger Todas have demonstrated remarkable alacrity in rebuilding long-abandoned dairy temples and seasonal hamlets, often after a hiatus of several decades. Unfortunately, in the clash of values brought about in the outside world, with lucre and violence being all too common, it is a traditional value system of indigenous people like the Todas that is most likely to take a backseat. Fortunately, the Toda value system remains strong, with these people continuing to tenuously hold on to many of their traditional ideals. When a Toda looks at certain hills, he sees them as abodes of deities whose names he has often chanted while serving as a dairyman priest. Indeed, when he looks at many a rock or rock formation, tree or body of water, he sees them as emanations of divinity, integral parts of the sacred world of his hamlet, clan, and community. Now, what is the way forward? Modern developmental activities must recognize that all indigenous people have an ancient heritage and that their value systems have evolved and endured over the centuries. Therefore, The need of the day is for holistic development that incorporates the traditional knowledge and value systems of such people, as well as the most important aspects of the traditional ways of life. For instance, in the case of the Todas, if the government had promoted the age-old pastoral ways of the Todas, rather than making them into reluctant farmers, these people would have continued with a vocation that they love, and at the same time drawn economic benefits from the traditional dairying activity that is most eco-friendly. Now, we have the entire land use pattern in the Nilgiris all messed up, and the natural environment in a state of decline. Similarly, too, with the architectural marvels that the Todas erect, if the government had encouraged them to adapt these structures to suit modern-day life, rather than thrusting cold and damp concrete houses on them, we would not have had these eyesores dotting the scenic Wenlock Downs. Similarly, the establishment of the tribal ward, the numerous hydroelectric projects, the planting of exotic trees across sacred pathways, the desecration of sacred sites, and other examples of insensitive development mentioned here could have been differently executed had some people in authority cared to understand Toda culture and sensitivities. If development is a true indicator of social, moral, and material progress, we find it to have had more of a detrimental effect when we realize that many of the moral and social values followed by 19th century Todas have now abated or disappeared. Thus, we are perhaps glad to see them becoming a little more like us. Sri Aurobindo had these profound words to say: man has harmonized life in the past by organized ideation and limitation. He has created societies based on fixed ideas or fixed customs, a fixed cultural system or an organic life system, each within its own order. The throwing of all these into the melting pot of a more and more intermingling life and a pouring in of ever new ideas and motives and facts and possibilities call for a new, a greater consciousness to meet and master the increasing potentialities of existence and then harmonize them. Reason and science can only help by standardizing, by fixing everything into an artificially arranged and mechanized unity of material life. A greater whole being, whole knowledge, whole power is needed to weld all into a greater unity of whole life. I close the quotation. Evidently, man still has miles to go before such a state of development is finally reached. Now, some of you might not have seen the Todas, so I'll just show you a small, an audio visual about the Todas, just for a few minutes. The lights. I'll just tell you what I'll be taking you through because I won't be talking through it. I'll be first showing you some of the prehistoric sites of the Nilgiris, which date back to 8,000 years, prehistoric sites. Then I'll be showing you some panoramas of Toda hamlets and sites, their salutation, how they salute each other, their portraits, how they hold their clan council by sitting in circles, their traditional food like the millet balls, their honey, Toda priesthood, their buffaloes, general life of Todas, their relationship with plants. For example, the churning stick which they use to churn the milk has been modeled after a flower, which you'll see a picture of that. And the sacred waters you'll be seeing, the abodes of the deities who live in the waters, the sacred temple complexes, the rites of passage. I'll be starting from the pregnancy ceremonies that take place in the 7th month of pregnancy in the pitch darkness of the new moon night. And then we go to the paternity rites because, like I mentioned, some of them followed a form of polyandry known as adelphic or fraternal polyandry. So a lady who married a man also became the wife to his brothers. So the person who performed the paternity rites was basically saying that I'll be the father of the child to be born in 2 months' time. And then we go to the birth ceremonies, then the naming ceremonies. And during the naming ceremony, the grandfather uncovers the child's face for the first time, shows the rising sun to him for the first time, the buffaloes, the temple lamp, the buffalo pen, the birds, the rocks, everything is shown to the child for the first time. And the name is given to the child, which is usually from the prayer words. The prayers are basically chant words to nature, sacred nature. Everything is about sacred nature. So I'll be showing you about the naming ceremony, then the ear-piercing ceremony. For many of the higher dairy temples, the ear-piercing ceremony is mandatory before a man can become a priest. And then you have the ordination ceremonies. So depending on the different 6 grades of temples, the person who wants to become a priest has to undergo elaborate ordination ceremonies in the forest before he becomes a priest. Then facets of priestly life I'll be showing you, migrations, their landscapes, and their ethnobotany, their relationship with orchids, balsams, rhododendrons, and plants to exhibit their worry state. They have a plant known as a worry flower, and if you pick up the gentian, it's called Arkilpoof and Toda. If you pick up this plant and you're worried, just hold it by the stem, and if you're worried, the flower will close. And it's so accurate that if you're very worried, it'll close in a flash. If you're slightly anxious, it'll take 2, 3, 4 minutes to close. And if you're one of those carefree types, it won't close at all. You come to the Nilgiris, I've been experimenting with it for 15 years. It's absolutely accurate indicator of your anxiety level. That's why it's known as the worry flower. So I'll be showing you some of these plants, and at the end of it, I'll be showing you the funeral ceremonies. The funeral ceremonies of them, how they make fire with their sticks to light the pyre of the departed person, and then the journey to the afterworld. One of the most stupendous stories about the Todas is that why do they perform their ceremonies of the rites of passage from birth to death using all these different kind of plants is because they believe that only if you perform the rites of passage properly will your spirit journey to the afterworld. And in this story, the journey to the afterworld, all the 15 mythological landmarks to be crossed by a spirit en route to the afterworld can be seen as actual sites on the field. In this, I'll be showing you a couple of them. For example, the place where the spirit is supposed to go up stone steps, you can actually see nature-made stone steps where the spirit is supposed to go up. So I'll be showing you some of these, the journey to the afterworld. Then, of course, their fascinating architecture. I said they're trailblazers among first societies. They've been acknowledged. So they're barrel-vaulted structures inspired by the miniature rainbows of the Nilgiris. Phenomenal. Only specific species of tree poles, bamboo, cane, etc., and thatch are used. Not a single nail. These structures can last for 60, 70, 80 years, only requiring periodic rethatching. And then the conical temples, like I said, some people have hypothesized that this was the prototype of the South Indian temple Vimana, conical. And then the rites of purification. After they rebuild a temple, the priest has to throw the bark and do different kind of ceremonies to purify the temple, the rites of purification. And then, of course, there'll be landscapes. And then, since everything is around the sacred buffaloes, when a sacred calf is born, there's a ceremony conducted by the priest known as Irmish Pathit, which is to make the calf into the same lineage as the mother, as the dam. And then they have the salt pouring ceremony. They have different rate of ecosystem management. So during all the different seasons of the year, the Todas perform this salt pouring ceremonies for their buffaloes. And this is a ritual performed during all the 4 seasons of the year. And even today, a failure, for example, if they don't do the salt water ceremony, which we'll be seeing, in April, the Todas believe that the southwest monsoon will fail. So it's an invitation for ecological disaster. A failure to perform these indirect methods of ecosystem management like the saltwater ceremonies. Then I'll be showing you some about the sacred rocks and stones. Then the embroidery motifs, designs, the enterprise these days. And then the deities, the Toda deities who live in the mountains. Even today, if you ask a Toda elder, which is the abode of God so-and-so, he will not even point his finger at that peak. It's so sacred. It's sacrilege even to point your finger at that. And then I'll be rounding off about their dance and their song. Like I mentioned, the way of their singing and dancing is something which dates back to the Vedas. So maybe we can just dim the lights and start this.